India is facing criticism for allowing a massive Hindu festival to go ahead despite the spiraling COVID-19 crisis. Close to 170,000 new cases have been reported, yet another record high. India has now overtaken Brazil as the second worst hit country by the pandemic.
As worries grow over a further spike in infections, close to 1 million Hindu pilgrims have gathered in the city of Haridwar. They're jostling for a dip in the holy waters of the Ganges River as part of rituals for the Kumbh Mela festival.
डर तो घर चलते समय था कि कोविड में जा रहे हैं कहीं कुछ ना हो लेकिन यहाँ आते माँ गंगा की कृपा से सब कुछ ठीक है कोई दिक्कत नहीं है.
Even though virus tests are mandatory before entering the area, authorities say calls for people to maintain social distancing fell on deaf ears, and few wore masks. India is experiencing its worst surge of the pandemic. It now accounts for 1 in every 6 infections reported daily around the world. Upcoming state elections are expected to make things worse, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi set to headline rallies that will draw tens of thousands of people. The worst-hit state of Maharashtra is considering a full lockdown that could prevent people from leaving their homes. The outbreak has also reached the country's highest court. Half of the staff of the Supreme Court have tested positive for the virus, forcing hearings to be held via video call from home. India has injected more than 100 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines, but experts say the pace needs to be picked up to prevent the crisis from spiraling out of control.
Neha Punya joins us live now from New Delhi. Neha, lots of backlash over the Kumbh Mela. There are fears this might become another super spreader event.
Absolutely, Dawn. And in the last few days, we've heard several officials from Prime Minister Modi's government and the Prime Minister himself blaming the current surge on the carelessness of both citizens and officials, saying it's because people are no longer wearing masks and defying social distancing norms. And all of this is happening in abundance in Haridwar, where the Kumbh Mela is being held. On Monday, there were, according to officials, about 1 million devotees jostling to try and take a dip in the holy river Ganges or Ganga. And like you saw in that report, there were hardly any masks in sight, and many devotees were allowed to enter the city after handing in a negative test report for COVID-19, say there's no such thing as coronavirus. It's all simply a hoax, and there seems to be no worry among the devotees who are there that they could, be responsible in helping COVID-19 numbers go up higher. Many people who are writing on social media who've been complaining about the inability to find hospital beds in many parts of the country are angry with the government, questioning why this event was allowed to go ahead in what is clearly a very deadly second wave of infections. In Haridwar itself, cases have more than doubled in the last 1 week alone, and there's a lot of anger, especially among health officials and doctors and frontline workers who say that they're really struggling to provide care to people who are now getting admitted to hospitals with increasing regularity, saying it's irresponsible on the behalf of local officials as well as the federal government to allow this event to go ahead. But officials maintain that with the negative test that's being handed in by every devotee, there's no risk. They are trying to implement social distancing norms, but it is difficult, they admit.
And meantime, Neha, the country's vaccination program's been lagging, but it's just received a shot in the arm.
Absolutely. On Monday, you had a panel that is looking at applications for emergency authorization, giving a go-ahead to the Russian vaccine Sputnik V. This vaccine will now be looked at by the Drugs Authority of India, and when that comes through, a rollout is possible. It's unclear when that will happen, but it's certainly a shot in the arm at a time when several states, many of them the worst-hit regions of India, have struggled with vaccine shortages. India reached an important milestone this weekend, handing out about 100 million doses of coronavirus vaccines, but it still has a long way to go. Its eventual target is over 300 million people by July. And at a time like this, when cases are going up and the government says increasing vaccine uptake is the need of the hour, states like Maharashtra, Delhi, Rajasthan, Punjab have all said that by the end of this week, their vaccine supplies will run out. The government has denied this, saying there are 40 million doses at hand, and that these states are simply spreading panic. But as vaccination centers shut down in many regions, there is anger among citizens, many questioning whether the vaccines that would have been given to them were actually exported by India to about 80 countries. And with this initial nod to Sputnik V, many are hoping that India will open the doors to the vaccines that are being used in many other countries, including Pfizer, Moderna, and possibly even Johnson & Johnson.
Thank you, Neha Punya in New Delhi.